Hello and welcome to Jeff Couret Podcast, episode 3. We're here with BassKitten, one of the fastest growing cosplay TikTok accounts. Um, so we're going to be digging into her growth trajectory on TikTok, what's been working for her, some of the stuff that she tried that didn't work, and just kind of her whole backstory. And the whole point of this is, you know, for those of you who are watching to learn from her success and see if maybe you can implement some of that into your own account. So we're just going to get started. So welcome, BassKitten.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all mine for sure. Let's just go back to the beginning. Where are you coming from and what led you to TikTok?
Yeah, so I've been dabbling in social media for a while. I have an Instagram account. I have about 60,000 followers there. And it took me, I'd say, about 4-ish years to get there. So kind of a longer trajectory, but it's more in the kind of rave and festival niche. And, given quarantine and everything going on, it kind of made sense to pivot a little bit of the type of content that I was making. And so I happened upon TikTok, and one of my girlfriends, who's also in very similar niche to me, was just like, hey, like, you should like do this with me. Like, I'm having so much fun. So I figured, why not? And it's been just like so much more fun to kind of make funny videos and like make fun of myself versus just like take the pictures at a non-existent music festival. So it's kind of how I started TikTok.
All right. So you're on TikTok for the first time. What are your thoughts on the platform in the early days?
It was really interesting. I think part of it was like at first, before I like did any kind of content creation, I was just like really interested in like, it just kind of became a time suck. I just like sit on TikTok for hours and just kind of get lost on the For You page. And I didn't really realize how effective from like a marketing standpoint it was, that like this app was just like very entertaining, short content that's easy to consume. It's very much similar to Vine, but I feel like there's some differences, like the kind of the just like the quick exposure and how like you don't really have to have a following to just like suddenly blow up, and that's really cool and super enticing. So from like a platform standpoint, it's definitely completely different than like any social platform I've ever used or been kind of first on. And it's really interesting to see kind of like the progression of this platform change and grow with kind of the time that especially with all the people kind of hopping on right now with quarantine and everything. So
Okay. So you hopped on TikTok and you had a base, I don't want to say a huge base, but like a decent base of audience and followers on Instagram, right? How many followers did you have on Instagram when you hopped on TikTok?
I think I had just hit around 60K, and actually had more conversion from TikTok to Instagram than Instagram to TikTok, I think, because since TikTok, I'm almost at 62,000. And, but my like TikTok has grown pretty exponentially in comparison, I think. So.
So was there an attempt in the early days in order to try to bring over the Instagram followers over to TikTok, or do you just kind of look at them as separate entities in the early days?
Yeah, I definitely tried to bring the two together. I think my niches are kind of different. Like I kind of mentioned, the Instagram's a lot more like rave and music festival related and that kind of like world, whereas like TikTok, I kind of aimed more at the like anime and like cosplay and kind of like kawaii, like Japanese cute content, because it just was like something I always wanted to explore. But I feel like with Instagram, it's really, really hard to change your niche once you're in a kind of a stream. It's really hard to start posting something completely different. So I did try to convert people, but I felt like there wasn't that much overlap of people on my Instagram versus on TikTok. But I did see like some spikes. It did work. I'd say earlier on, I probably gained a couple hundred to a couple thousand, but like probably pretty slowly. And it still continues to like, I think, grow a little bit. I've had people who like message me on Instagram and be like, yeah, I've been following you forever and I just followed your TikTok yesterday. So people are still kind of exploring and finding the app, I think, but it wasn't like an immediate like conversion for sure. It wasn't that quick.
So one of the lessons for those of you who are paying attention, one of the lessons that are unfolding right here before our eyes, okay. So BassKitten had a base of followers on Instagram, but she kind of wanted to reinvent herself. So she was kind of not happy with the way things were going. So she is it fair to say you looked at this as an opportunity in order to just kind of like start over, start fresh in a way, right?
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I did try to do some festival content, but it didn't really go over so well. I think the festival content was also potentially suppressed when I was like joining. And so I ran into some issues where like I did have like a festival video get removed and I was like pretty discouraged. So I figured it would make more sense for me to pivot anyway. And it was always something that I like kind of wanted to explore anyway.
So, and just to clarify, when you say festival, we're talking about raves, which are kind of synonymous with drug use. I mean, that's just kind of what happened, right? Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
We can say it here on YouTube, but well, I don't know if we can or not, but on TikTok, it's probably more likely to be suppressed. Any kind of reference to the word rave, I would imagine, maybe. But cool. All right, so you're on TikTok, you're cranking out content. So what are you trying, and kind of was it a struggle? Were you getting frustrated in the early days, or?
Yeah, I think when, like I said, kind of with the festival content at the beginning, like it just wasn't really working. And like some content was okay. It was like kind of a slow start. And then I think really when I kind of like started to switch and pivot the type of content I was making was when I started to notice like much more of a substantial uptick because like, I guess like, hashtag kawaii isn't necessarily banned, but like, yeah, hashtag rave girl definitely has probably more of a suppressed, like I don't know, more of suppression happening. So at first it was obnoxious because yeah, I got like video removed. It kind of like suppressed my content in general. It felt like I couldn't post anything like rave or festival related at all. And so I was just like frustrated at that. But then once I kind of like got into the new groove of like, I kind of want to go away from this anyway. This makes a lot of sense for me. Like I liked it a lot more and it's just been so much more successful for sure.
Hmm. So what was it that finally, like, what was the big, so you were frustrated in the early days. What do you feel like, if you get like 80/20, what was 80% of your success? The big shift that you started doing differently. Was it changing your content? Was it posting more often?
Yeah, I think it was changing the content, like being kind of well versed in social media. I know that like posting content often is kind of how you grow your following. Like when I first started Instagram, it was like, yeah, I was posting 1 to 2 times every single day, did a bunch of hashtag research. And in the earlier days of Instagram, it was a lot easier. And as time has moved on, it's been a lot more difficult to kind of follow that. And I just like don't have the motivation to be taking photos all the time. Whereas with videos and video content, it's kind of a lot more fun and interactive, and there's a little bit more, I think, just like happening in the frame and the shot. So it's kind of more exciting. But yeah, like I think it was just like when I changed the content and then just making sure that whatever content I was making was like in this kind of like kawaii niche, but then also was like hitting on whatever was the top trends. Like I follow Charlie and Addison, not necessarily because I like want to, but because I know that they're gonna be doing the new TikTok dance or the new trend or having at the very least the new sounds that are coming out. And then that way I know like, okay, I can like reinvent this in my way, in my niche to make it unique and different.
Yeah, and I think that's a big lesson for everybody here. Like, um, the cosplay niche, or really any other niche, is like a niche, and you kind of have to tap into the trends. You don't 100% have to, but it can certainly help speed things up when you do like whatever the current trend is. If you can just kind of like, you got to be a little creative here, but like, how can you take that trend and apply it to what you do? And I guess lucky for you, almost any dance could be done in cosplay, in your uniform, or whatever your get up, right? Your And so that can certainly apply, where maybe, for me, I know I got to take a little bit more of like an educational stance. So maybe like the dances are kind of a weird fit, even though maybe they can work, but maybe it's kind of a weird fit. But so that's cool.
Totally.
All right. So you went from, in the last 2 months, you went from what, like 4,000 followers to, you said you're at 60, 70. Where you at right now?
I'm at 50K on TikTok. Yeah. I'm at like 51 or 50. Yeah. 50, somewhere in that range, 51, 50, somewhere.
So that's a pretty awesome growth. There's a lot of people watching this who wish they could achieve that sort of growth. So this is going to inspire a lot of people, and uh, like I was telling you before, a lot of people struggle, and they say, is cosplay suppressed? What, like a lot of cosplayers just really struggle with the platform. So what do you think they're doing wrong?
So I don't know if it was like completely true, but my friend who like has been doing TikTok with me since kind of the start, she was the one who said like, oh, be careful with hashtagging anything cosplay related, because apparently TikTok was like concerned about like bullying or something. I don't know how true that is. But I will say that like there is kind of like its own, like cosplay is kind of its own like culture in a sense. And there's a lot of things in cosplay culture that like, I'm going to say like normie TikTok or like regular TikTok might not understand. And I think that's probably the biggest thing where like, for me, like the biggest thing that I think I'm doing differently is like, I'll do the dress up, I'll wear the, the cosplay outfits, or sometimes I don't even necessarily like go full out and like, cosplay. I'll just wear ears and like a cute outfit. But I think it's just like being still relatable in the niche that you're in, regardless of like what your niche is. Like still being relatable, obviously, to like the cosplay realm, because I'm dressed that way and I'm part of that kind of community. But then at the same time, still doing things and like responding and acting in a certain way that is still relatable to like everybody else. Because at the end of the day, like if you hit the For You page and your video is going really big, like how is it, if it doesn't like appeal to like everybody, then like it's not really going to go too far, right? Whereas if you're just targeting like content that like only cosplayers or only people who watch anime are going to get, it's a little bit more dicey. But I mean, I've also had success with that. I've had like, I think my first video that did super, super well was like a dance that's like really, really old, really ingrained in like the anime lover culture. It's like a video that's kind of disturbing. And it's like, if you know that video and that song and that like specific dance, like you know it. And if you don't, you don't. But if you know it, it's almost like its own cult. Like people are like, yeah, like I've seen that video before. And that kind of, I think, is like also kind of beneficial because it'll bring some people together. But yeah, that video didn't go super, super viral. I think I capped at 80K, which isn't bad, but like, I think in comparison to some of the other content that I've done that's hit like 500K or like over 100K, I think those content tend to be more like easy to relate, regardless of if you're interested in cosplay or not.
Awesome. So do you recommend that cosplay people use hashtag cosplay at all, or should they get a little bit more specific with the type of cosplay they're doing?
Yeah, I like specificity. I'm big on hashtag research for sure. It's like something that I like really like doing, and I kind of like changing up my hashtags and kind of figuring out what works. But I mean, I've never done like hashtag just cosplay before. I've done like cosplay with an like a 0 instead of an O, and like that kind of worked out fine. I've had times where I've named the specific cosplay, like I just posted like a Princess Leia cosplay. So sometimes I'll put like Star Wars cosplay or like Princess Leia cosplay, and like that doesn't generally do too poorly. So I think being a little bit more specific does help, versus being super general, especially with like the hashtag of cosplay. But I think that's kind of the case with like a lot of those like anime related hashtags or gaming related hashtags. Like I don't just use hashtag kawaii, I use like hashtag, kawaii squad or something like that. And so it kind of like adds another layer to helping people find my content.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing your, your experience there. And let's move on over to monetization. So, I know a little bit about your background as we've been working a little bit on the consulting front, right? But so I know you got the job, right? And this is your side hustle. So,
Yeah.
Is the plan to like maybe turn this into your full-time thing, or is this kind of like a hobby for you? And like, how's the monetization stuff going?
Yeah, so like I monetized a lot through Instagram before, and most of it, like there was a mix. Like I'd get either cash for posts, or I promote for like big festival companies. So like I get, tickets to events.
Kind of like sponsored posts. Oh, they give you tickets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so sponsored posts in the sense that they'll they'll have us post like 5 different posts or something, but then they'll give me like a ticket that's worth $700 or something crazy. So I generally find it to be worth it in that respect. And then like clothing, and then with TikTok also, like clothing, like the shirt, the ears, like these are all sponsored items that like I'll just get because I'll promise like, hey, I'll make a video for you. But as far as like monetization, like, yeah, I've like explored trying to get like gifters. It works okay. Sometimes people just gift, sometimes people don't. It's just kind of like dependent. I think I do have somewhat of a younger audience base, so it's kind of hit or miss there. But like I have like my Cash App in my like link tree, and I've definitely gotten random Cash Apps. So like there's a little bit happening behind the scenes. But
I would
yeah.
see this, and I'm like, are people actually throwing out? I guess there's a reason.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it depends. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I used to kind of test it with Instagram with the stories, because you can like swipe up, or like I used to just be like, oh my gosh, I want these new pairs of shoes, and like somebody might Venmo me money. So it's like, all right, I'll see how it goes. But it works okay on TikTok. Like I think I've had a couple different people who have like sent me money through Cash App, and they're like, yeah, just because I like your TikTok. Or like I had a video once that was like asking what people's favorite candy was, and the person like, yeah, Cash App me $5, and they're like, go buy yourself a Kit Kat. And it's like, all right, cool, thanks guys. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely like a side hustle. I have a full time, but like obviously always like looking for multiple income streams. Like if I can monetize, I'm happy to, but I think it's not like my biggest focus at the moment. I like right now I'm just like really trying to pump out good content, kind of build the audience base so that as time moves on, like it'll be easier to monetize.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about. So these companies are reaching out to you in order to do sponsored posts, and they're offering you, and this is, I guess, for you and anybody else who's getting these types of interactions with brands or whatever, or festival companies or whatever. From what I understand, and I've seen it too. Like they'll reach out and they'll be like, it's almost like a lowball offer. Okay, will you do a sponsored post if we give you this? But if you kind of play hardball a little bit and negotiate some back and forth, maybe you can turn that conversation into like, well, actually, I kind of have to charge money. Happy to take whatever, and maybe I'll wear it. But for me right now, where I'm at right now, kind of money is where I'm at. And I had a recent conversation like that with an app development company, and whatever that calculator website is where they tell you your
Oh yeah.
price per post. I just went with that, and they were like, "Oh, it sounds great." I'm like, "Oh, was it really that easy?" So um,
Yeah.
maybe you try that too. I don't know if you try to negotiate a little bit with those companies.
I do on Instagram, I think a lot. I think there's certain brands like the shirt that I'm wearing and this brand that I work with. I actually used to do their digital marketing like years ago. So I'm really close with them, and they actually give me like quite a lot of items. But I've been like kind of an influencer, someone that makes a lot of sales for them for a really long time. So they don't just send me like basic items. They send me a lot of items usually, and like I kind of have the option to kind of have whatever I want. So there's a little bit of a difference, I think, with that brand. And then, yeah, with this brand, like I'd probably be able to say something about like having, asking them to send me ears on the regular or something, because, they're handmade, and I don't like, there's certain brands I work with that like, I don't mind because I really like the product. And so I'm more than happy to promote their product, especially like mom and pop shops. Like they just like hand make these. So like I feel bad asking for like actual money. But that being said, like, yeah, I've definitely been offered like, companies will be like, hey, we have a shirt. We want to give you the shirt. Can you post in the shirt? And I'll be like, yeah, but a wall post is going to cost you about this much with 60K followers and this many impressions. And if you want a story post, like I can give it to you for cheaper because it's 24 hours. But if you want to swipe up link, it's going to be more expensive, stuff like that. So I do have like general rates that I give out, especially if people are just asking for like static, they're going to give me a flyer to post or something. And I also am pretty picky with that type of content. I won't just post any flyer on my Instagram like page for sure, just because it's not going to do well for my audience, and it's not going to do well for me. So I'm not going to do that. But I have been paid with like monetary, with money for posts before, on more than one occasion, and video, same thing with Snapchats. I'm sorry, with the stories. So doing a little bit of it, but yeah, it's not like my biggest focus, but it's definitely something I think I'll like once I get to a place where I'm really comfortable with like my following on TikTok, I think it's going to be a place that I'll be exploring a lot more soon.
Yeah, speaking about the following and the future of TikTok, I feel like it would be kind of a lost opportunity if we didn't touch on the potential of a U.S. ban of TikTok, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I mean, it's just something we should probably talk about because let's be honest, it's on everybody's mind who's going to be watching this and listening to this. So, what are your thoughts and your take on what's going on?
I don't think they're going to ban it. I think it's just a lot of political ploys right now. There's a lot of heat in the air with politics at the moment. And this is just kind of one other step that like adds to it. It's something that a lot of youth are on. Plus, like, I don't know, I think it was just like I feel like a move kind of in the similar direction of like where like India did it, and like the US was like maybe we should too. But given that like the CEO is like based in the US now, I think, right? Like they poached somebody from Disney or something, and like
Weird.
I've actually personally been reached out to on multiple occasions on LinkedIn from TikTok asking to do growth marketing for them. So I don't think if they're on like a hiring like spree, I don't think they're gonna have that much of an issue long term. I'm sure that like if it's possible, like maybe it happens for like a week or a month, but like I don't see it being a long term situation. I'm sure that there'll be some agreement met at some point, but it's still like nerve wracking because it's like I really like my content, and it's more about my content. Like, how do I save all of my content as quickly as possible so I never lose it?
Yeah, I think the big thing people should be thinking about right now is like, how can, in case, worst case scenario, TikTok does get shut down in the US, how can you know, send them an email blast or, something like, how can we get in touch with our audience if the SH hits the fan? And, I think Discord, Slack, Facebook groups, getting them on your YouTube or Instagram, something. Everybody, I think, should be pushing at least a little bit to get some people off, so you can at least get your super fans. Your 1,000 true fans, whatever that is. How can you get in touch with them in case it happens? But as of today, and I made a few TikToks about this. They're saying Trump, and I hate to get too political here, but supposedly Trump is like trying to like get back at China for the coronavirus by hurting TikTok or banning like I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know if these are people reaching or what, but it seems to be some sort of petty thing. I don't know.
Just vote, everybody, go vote. That's all I can say. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna long term happen. Like at the end of the day, like I think that like they're I feel like they're moving to somewhat being more US based. I've heard rumors that they're trying to like move out of Hong Kong too, like they're trying to move away from being part of China too. So like I don't know if that's 100% accurate either, but like
Yeah.
I mean, they just hired a CEO in the US who's a big business person who's been around in the industry in corporate America for years. Like I'm sure he'll figure out what works and what doesn't and how to kind of mitigate the whole situation.
It would be a massive blow to TikTok because India was what I found out yesterday from my research. India was the number one user base of TikTok with like 120 million, and the US is number two with like 40 million. So if they lost their top two user bases, that's a pretty massive blow to TikTok. So I don't know what's going to happen. We're seeing it unfold. Obviously, we're all hoping, especially those of us who have grown in the last whatever months, me and you included. We don't want to lose that all that work we've been doing. So that would really suck for that to happen. But yeah, I think that's it. I think you've delivered a lot of value to people who are watching and listening to this. So I know a lot of y'all probably want to check out BassKitten and what she's doing on TikTok, and of course probably Instagram or whatever else. So feel free to let people know how they can find you.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm gonna push Twitter more because I'm really trying to push my Twitter now. But everything is @_BassKitten, BassKitten. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
ASS, not BASE.
Yeah, BASS, like bass music or like bass the fish or bass fish. I don't know. People have been like, BassKitten, are you a catfish hybrid? I'm like, no.
Of course, I'll put in the description here on YouTube. My main podcast platform is YouTube. But yeah, thanks again for being here with me, BassKitten, and yeah, looking forward to the next time we chat.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Bye. My pleasure. Bye.